All right, we are live again. Hopefully, we won't have the technical difficulties we had earlier with sound. So far, so good.
So far, so good. Yeah.
All right, well, we have with us again Anthony Giordano from Italian Goes Keto, and
Hi.
I'm excited to hear your story, man. Let's tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'm, you know, don't look like the typical Italian. I'm
Mm,
raised Canadian. My father's Italian. Half of my life is with Italian roots, and the other half is with Canadian roots. I was born and raised in Toronto, Canada. But a lot of my childhood was spent in my nonna's kitchen.
mm,
Eating a lot of the staples of what you'd consider to be Italian cuisine. Your pastas, your pizzas, your bread, all those delicious things that we love.
mm,
And you add to that the fact that I grew up in basically the late 80s, early 90s. And my parents were raising me with the nutritional guidelines in mind. A lot of low fat, a lot of grains, margarine, that kind of stuff. And I was always the heavy kid in school. Uh, through high school, I stayed pretty active and never got to that super overweight or obese stage. Um, but I was always heavy, so I was always battling weight. I was always battling, what am I doing here? I'm following what I think to be eating right. And the only time I ever really got in shape was when I was doing a lot of exercise, like a lot of cardio or a lot of weight training.
mm,
And yeah, it was really frustrating actually. And as soon as myself, my younger brother, once we got out of that active phase in life, we really started to balloon up, both of us.
mm,
Um, and we started to follow that typical pattern that a lot of people today accept as, starting to put on pounds every year. And a lot of that was fed by, my Italian roots. I'd eat a lot
mm,
of pasta, basically. I was eating, that's a quick, easy thing to make, boil some water, throw some pasta, and you know, even if I'm using homemade sauce, really didn't make a
mm,
difference, right? I'm having a lot of carbs, and I never really understood that that was the reason that I was putting on the weight. I was trying to avoid fat, stuff like that. So that's how I was raised. So really quick, what happened basically 2.5, 3 years ago, I weighed myself and I cracked 200 pounds. I was 205 pounds, and I'm only a 5'8" inch guy.
mm,
So I mean, that put me in the obese category. And I recognize that, I got to make a change and I need to make a drastic change. No more of this portion control or just running more or anything like that. Something was really wrong. So I found low carb through a series of, fortunate events, a lot of my own research online. And I had to kind of do it stealthily because of my Italian roots. I had to start pretending, I'm not feeling so well at family dinners, had to avoid the pasta, that kind of thing. But I lost 50 pounds in 10 months, dropped down to 157. And from there, that was all basically, restricting carbs, going into the ketogenic type lifestyle, incorporate a little bit of intermittent fasting as well. And in literally 10, 11 months, I was down well within a normal, healthy weight range. And I've kept that off. And I'm in fact now doing more resistance training and trying to build muscle and do a body recomposition type thing.
mm,
Um, but I've kept it off, and it's sustainable. And the hardest part of all of that was actually my family and going against that Italian roots because family dinners, like you can imagine, they were never quite the same once Anthony stopped having the pasta course. But
mm,
there's hope, right? Like that's the whole reason why I'm doing my blog because I'm really passionate about wanting to share this. And the more traction low carb movement gets, the more traction people like you, doctors are getting on board. I really want to convince basically my parents. That's right. Like that's all I care is convince my parents
mm,
and convince my brother that I'm not a total whack, and that there's something to this and that it's healthy and that they can turn around there because my parents are diabetic and my brother is, he's borderline as well. So I was going down that path. So that's my passion and my goal is to get my word out. So that's why I'm blogging. That's why I'm doing these types of chats. Um, is just to get that message out and make it an option for people, really. Because before, like going to my doctor, going to my GP, they say you're crazy. Don't do that. You need carbs. Well, you don't. Anyway, that's my story in a nutshell.
Right. That's great. Yeah, your camera's kind of freezing up a little bit, so I'm just kind of pulling you back on
That's
me a
right.
little bit on this. So,
Sure,
um,
sure.
but I'll pull over to you whenever your cash catches up. Um, so yeah, I mean, a similar story, but again, I was obese for a lot longer, right? So, in my case, have been fighting weight since I was a kid. Was really in pretty good shape when I was in the Navy, but 5 minutes after I got out of the Navy, blew up. And my my mom was a great cook, so I mean, not blaming her. I liked food,
Yeah.
right? So that's just how that went. We were a very a foodie family in that respect, and my it's sad because my mom is now passed, and she was a diabetic. My
Sorry.
oldest brother was a diabetic, and he ended up with cancer. Partly probably because of his diet, also partly because he was a chain smoker. That probably didn't help any either. But it's just, and also we were coming to find out that eating low carb also helps with addiction, right? So one of the things that we're finding out even about those type of things. So I know what you're saying. We're doing these type of things not for our benefit. It's to reach out to our family members who we can't tell directly, right?
No,
They
no,
don't listen to
exactly.
us when we talk to them directly, but they might sneak a watch on YouTube
Yeah,
or
maybe, right?
follow us on Facebook or, God forbid, Twitter. Now they probably couldn't do that.
No, not my parents.
But yeah, I mean, this is really it. We're trying to impact our circle of influence the way we can.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
but it's not easy. And I know I have two daughters right now that I would really like for them to be more involved in this. One, she's really doing what she can. She has two autistic children. She's going through a divorce, and so there's always these outside pressures, right?
Yeah.
And school and those type of things, and nutritional guidelines that they put in schools. But she is doing what she can at home. She's gotten them off the processed foods as much as she can, and is seeing a difference with both of them in their autism. So
Yeah. That's
there's a
amazing.
lot of things that we can do and influence in these type of things. My other daughter, not so much.
Hmm.
She's like, oh, that's too hard for me. And that's why I'm really interested in meeting with people that are families. So we can
Yeah.
say, yeah, it is actually possible. This is not something that really is that hard if you just focus on it, if it's important to you.
Yeah. I think what's important is like the person in the family that first kind of does it, blazes the trail a little bit
Mhm.
and shows that it's doable and you're not starving. That was my nonna's concern, oh, you're not eating enough. No, I'm fine. I'm still healthy. I still feel good. So you blaze that trail, you show what's possible, and then you show them some meals that you're eating. I always make it a point of, you know, if any of my family's coming over, to at least share with them a little meal, even if they're not gonna partake, right? Just to show them what I'm eating, what my plate looks like. And they see what I'm eating, and they see that I'm not going hungry, and they see what they could be eating, right? And I hope that they put two and two together, where look at what he's eating, look at the transformation that's happened. Maybe I can do something that's similar. And of course, I think one thing that's happened, because I'm kind of doing it from the reverse, right? You're doing it from a parent's perspective, doing it to adult children, and I'm trying
Mhm.
to do it from the perspective of a young parent who has total control over whatever's going into their young children, and trying to influence people who've known me and raised me and changed my diapers, right? Like
Right.
they're not going to listen to me, right? They're going to listen to their doctors. And so this is where, I hope that at least in the next few years, this low carb really catches on and starts getting traction in that community so that they hear it from their doctors. They've seen that I've done it. They know that it's healthy and it's okay because maybe they think it's okay for a young person to do it
Mm.
because their heart maybe is still okay and they're worried about their heart and switching to high fat. That's all they've heard their entire lives is high fat's going to kill you. But I mean, I don't know. I just think it's a total load of crap that everyone's been fed, and it really upsets me. It really gets me really angry that, they've been fed that their whole lives and they're sick because of it.
Right.
And, I'm lucky that the internet, like I just so happen to make the decision and make the change when there's enough information outside there right now on the internet
Hmm.
to do my own research and make those own mostly educated choices and experiment on myself. But my parents' generation, they trust their doctors, and the
Right.
doctors are giving nutritional advice, and maybe they're not qualified to be doing that, right? But
Well, qualified won't be a word I would use. I would say maybe they just haven't taken the effort to do it. I mean, I realize they're busy people, right? Doctors are, they have a lot of patients. Partly the reason they have a lot of patients is because there's not a lot of information out there that people have known. People have been trying as hard as they can to follow these guidelines, right? I mean, it's not from lack of trying.
that's right.
The cost of health of gym membership over the last 20 years has been rising steadily.
Yeah,
We've been eating less meat and eating less fat
yeah,
as per the directive, but it's not working, right? And so, you know, we listen to our doctors. Oh, you might want to ask your parents, like, is your doctor overweight?
yeah. That's right. That's a
I
good
mean,
question.
the thing is, if their doctor is overweight, the doctor can't heal himself. But there are a lot of people, and we continue sharing, right? We share videos, we share stories of other people that have been successful, and
Yeah,
now, like you said, we have doctors. I mean, I went
yeah.
to a couple of weeks ago. We had the Adapt event here in Tampa, which was Dr. Westman's event.
Oh, that's great. Cool.
It was great. I mean, and the first thing I noticed, like there were about 100 people there, and looking at the percentage of obese people in that room compared to the normal American crowd is astoundingly different, right? I
Yeah,
mean, there might be like 1 or 2% that were obese,
that's
and I was
crazy.
one of them because I'm still on the path down, right? So I've lost 74 pounds, but I've
Hey,
got
very
about
nice. Yeah.
34, 30. I got like 35 more to go till I reach where I'm comfortable at. But
Well, keep going, man. That's great. That's awesome.
well, hell yeah, I'm going to keep going. Why not? It's too easy. It's too easy. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's the thing. It's effortless. So I've been doing this since what, August of 2018.
Oh,
74
wow.
pounds in like 7 months. That's
That's amazing.
yeah. There's no drug. There's no other lifestyle or whatever that can match that, right?
No,
And
that's fantastic, man.
and so I'm getting even people from work. So I don't see my people from work every day, right? I travel a lot, or I don't necessarily go in the office all the time. But every time I go in the office, they're like, I've had people like didn't recognize me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Same. Yeah.
like, wait a minute, hey, you're Kevin, right? And I'm like, yeah. And you look at my pictures, and I go, no, there's no way that's you're the same guy. And then every couple of weeks, I talk to somebody else, like, you know what, I'm doing keto now, so I don't have to sit out there
Nice.
and preach it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, as you said, it's trailblazing. It's the example, and
Yeah.
that's
Well, that
all we
kind
can do.
well, that kind of brings me to like one of the things that I'm trying to do, writing about, what it's like to be, you know, an Italian raised person that's gone keto and kind of ditched all this, you know, ditched all the carbs or whatever, like kind of like what you're saying, like trying to get people to jump ship and just give it a shot. And one thing that I noticed when it came to my family, and I think they are slowly starting to turn their heads because they do see that it is sustainable and I'm going to stick with it. It's not just some fad diet. Um, they were worried that, kind of turning your back on traditions and you're turning your back on like these dishes that we've been eating for, ever since we were little. Mom's mashed potatoes or Nonna's lasagna or, apple pie and all that great delicious stuff, which seems like that's the only thing we do when we get together in big gatherings is just eat and eat a lot of carbs. Um, so what I'm trying to do by writing is showing, none of that stuff is actually about the type of food that you're eating. It's really about the time that you're spending together and
Mhm.
that love and that togetherness. So I think some people are scared that if they were to switch and be keto, that they kind of be ostracized socially or in their family. And I kind of want to show that that's not the case. I'm trying to show like, okay, if you have a work social and you're going out to some restaurant that you don't know if you're going to be able to eat, just go. all right, there's going to be a way that you're going to be able to go and eat and not be the weirdo that can't eat anything. There's always options. So I'm trying to show that there's always something that you can do. And in the very same way, it's trying to do that with the family. And if I have to say no to the pasta, that's fine. But I'm gonna double down on Nona's, sausage and the vegetables, the salted cod like the bacala, and all the delicious stuff that you kind of just wanted to get through the pasta to get to. You kind of just wanted to, okay, let me finish this pasta so I can get to the good stuff. Um, so I just hold off and eat that stuff because you're still
Yeah.
around the table at the end of the
And,
day,
and
right?
the bread too, right? I mean, there's always so much bread, being
Yeah.
passed around. The bruschetta and everything else that goes along with that as well, right?
Yeah, we asked to have my wife and I went out I can't remember where it was. It wasn't an Italian restaurant. We went for a steak dinner, and they always bring you the huge basket of bread, and we said, you know what? Can you just take the bread away, right? It's like
Mhm.
just, and then the waitress was like, you know, flabbergasted. She's like, no one's ever asked me to take the bread away. It's like, yeah, just get that out of here, right? Doing stuff like that. I don't know, changing
Yeah.
it a little bit.
Well, as I say, I travel a lot. I work, and while I'm traveling, I'm always having to eat out. And here, at least in Florida, that's not becoming a problem anymore. They're starting to see that happening more and more, where people are saying no, 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 thank you on the bread,
Great.
or if we order a hamburger or no bun. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
lot of the restaurants down here. They're even, if you look at, when you look at your ticket, it says, it'll even tell you, low carb hamburger on there. So
right.
it's starting to catch on, at least here. I don't know but in Toronto, but
Yeah,
so hopefully
it's
there's hope
funny.
there.
I don't know what it was, but there must have been a period of time that I just wasn't going for fast food. But I guess with pregnant wife and recent newborn, right, and just not having time, we've stopped a few times at fast food joints. And I always thought I had to have some kind of a code or like a diagram to give these restaurant chains, hey, can you just give me a burger and like kind of go through it, but no bun,
Mhm.
and then, oh, you just want a lettuce wrap like plain patty? Yeah, we do that, and that's
Yeah.
happened to me multiple different times. It's like, okay, I guess I just need to say no bun, and they've got it covered. So I guess enough people are doing it, which is really encouraging.
Yeah, it is good. I mean, and that's one of the things. Like I said, I ate last night. I went to a steakhouse for dinner because I was by myself, and I got the New York strip and sides vegetables. It was great. And then I was
That's
telling
right.
you, guy today that he's doing keto with me now. So he had
Cool.
lunch with me, and he got exactly the same thing. So then um, we just bought a sous vide. You know what that is?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we just bought one. Just got it today and tried it out, and oh my goodness, perfect medium rare
Ooh.
ribeyes today. So that's 3 meals: steak, steak, steak in a row. And you know what? Everyone was the best steak I've ever had, because when
No,
you
don't
don't
tell me
eat,
that.
well,
I've been
when you
trying not to
don't
buy one.
eat, right? When you
Yeah,
don't eat until you're hungry,
yeah.
the food is enjoyable every time. It's like you've never eaten before again in your life. So that's
Yes,
that's the key, right? Instead of eat, again, you're an Italian background where they eat 6, 7, 8 times a
that's
day,
right. That's right. Yeah,
to
yeah.
where you're eating once, maybe twice a day. You really appreciate food, and so you find a different love for food, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Um, you love that you
Oh, I think I might have lost you.
the lasagna. You still there?
Oh, I'm back. I'm back.
You back? Okay. Yeah, it's not, it's not just the lasagna and the pasta and the bread. It's, just take me to the main course. Just get me to the meat. I'm good with that.
Yeah,
And the vegetables. And there is no ostracization, right? I mean,
that's right.
okay, so I don't eat your pasta. I mean, I still love you. I love you,
That's
mom.
right. That's right.
Love your meat. Your
There's
sausage
nothing
is
personal. Yeah.
fantastic.
And my
Um,
nonna, she made a special batch of meatballs and she took out the breadcrumbs for me. So there's change. There's change afoot.
see, I mean, and so it's accepting. People are not going to judge you. Like you said, you're showing them your meals, and they're finally understanding that no, you're not doing some weird thing. You're just not eating carbs. It's not weird.
No,
Um,
it's not
you know,
weird.
it's like saying, well, I don't eat. People might eat Pop Tarts for breakfast, but if I don't eat Pop Tarts for breakfast, I'm the weird one.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy what people consider to be a normal diet.
Hmm.
I saw recently online, I forget who was posting it, but it's like someone's trying to rename the low carb diet to like the normal carb diet. And like everything else is extreme high carb diet. Like
Right.
the standard diet today is actually the extremely high carbohydrate diet. And
Yeah.
I really
That's
like
the fad diet.
switching it,
Right.
right? That's
Mhm.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think maybe the term the proper human diet is what I'm seeing go around right
Yeah, I
now.
like
Right.
that, Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of people pushing this, like what is a normal, like what is a species appropriate diet? And I think that that's a really important concept. But we weren't raised to think that way. We weren't raised to think that way at all.
Well, we've been raised for instant gratification, right? That, we should eat whatever we want. We should get what we want. And, that's fine to a degree, but it's also kind of, tainted us a bit, right? And the fact that we just expect to be able to eat whatever we want, whenever we want, and no consequences.
Yeah.
But there are consequences, as we found out. In my case, and also my wife's case, autoimmune disease was
Mm.
rampant, right? So, I had 3 autoimmune diseases I was diagnosed with, and come to find out, I remove the carbs, those symptoms go away. So there are
Good.
consequences for eating in that method. It's
Yeah,
not a normal diet for us.
no, and I thought so. I've recently made a blog post on basically what was it, like 11 or 12 symptoms. I think it was 11, and then I added one after I posted um, that just disappeared or greatly improved. And
Mhm.
I thought that it was just a normal part of aging, but really, no. Like there's all kinds of things that improve when you make this change, and it's ridiculous when you start listing out everything that gets better and how you feel. Like I feel fantastic, and it's been a year, and I feel like I've missed out on years of my like my 20s basically were spent eating high carb, and like I probably was feeling like crap all the time, and now I feel this energy and all of these things that I thought, and actually a lot of my friends experience, and it's just like, we're just getting old. No, we're not just getting old. We were playing golf. I said, you know what? I have no back pain. Everyone's complaining, oh, my back, this. No, no, not me. And then the next day they're all complaining that they're sore. No, I'm not sore. And I think a lot of it's inflammation and, joint pain. These things disappear. And they're all linked, right? Like you're not carrying the extra weight, so you're not putting all the stress on your joints. And, not to go down that whole rabbit hole, right? But, it's crazy what improves when you change your diet, and getting people to recognize that what they're fueling their body with is
Yeah.
so important. I mean, that's the goal. That's the goal with all this.
Right. Yeah, and I like it because I mean it really is. It seems like it's so earth shattering. Like, oh, we just figured this out. But if you
Yeah.
really think about this, it's like we really aren't supposed to eat Twinkies. That's not really a normal human diet for us to eat. We really shouldn't probably be eating 44 teaspoons of sugar every meal. I mean,
Oh,
when you think about it, it's not that rocket sciencey to,
no.
to just to kind of separate that out and think about if we just eat meat and vegetables, gosh, how extreme.
It's exactly. And I'm in Toronto, all right? This is like we're taping this in March. And just last
Mhm.
month, if you went for a walk outside, you weren't picking any bananas off the trees. Okay, there are no banana trees in Toronto. There
Mhm.
are no fruit bushes when it's minus 30 with the wind chill, right? At that point, Fahrenheit and Celsius doesn't even matter, right? Nothing is growing. And people live up here. They've lived up here for, hundreds, thousands of years, right? And why is it so crazy to just not be eating that amount of carbohydrate, right? Like I just don't understand. I can't wrap my head around it. And it's really only been a couple generations worth of people that have, you know, somehow changed the whole world's mind on nutrition. I don't understand this. We got to change it back. That's what we got to do. We have a responsibility. We've had our eyes open to this. We got to just spread it, live by example, as what you're doing, right?
Right. Precisely. I mean, we can always talk about what caused the change. I guess it
Oh,
was with the Ansel keys,
yeah, right.
the lipid hypothesis, bad epidemiology studies, the whole
Yep,
thing.
yep. Doesn't
What
matter. It's done.
started us down that road. Kellogg's, right? So when it
Yep.
told us that a real breakfast was, kibble.
Yeah.
I mean, breakfast cereal, same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, at some point, that became the standard, and that, hey, let's go ahead and take all the fiber out of the oranges and just give you the sugar and give you orange juice.
Yeah.
And there you go. There's your perfect breakfast drink as well.
I know.
It seems like
But you know,
madness
like,
if you look at it that
but
way.
but just 3 years ago for me, that was normal. That made total sense to me. And I would
Mhm.
wash down, you know, I would wash down a plate of pasta with like a nice big glass of Coca-Cola, and I would think nothing of it. And I would think nothing of the food coma that hit me not half an hour later when we're literally the entire family is just watching TV. Half of them are snoring away. How could I not have put two and two together that like that is what happened? Like we just all consumed these carb bombs, these sugar bombs, and uh and now we're all just incapacitated while our bodies try to recover from this, right? Like I don't know. I don't know why I couldn't have thought that, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're not alone in that respect, right? We all have thought it all was deemed as normal, right? The old, even when you eat lunch during the day, you eat the high carb, you go get pizza or a hamburger with
Yeah,
a bun and everything, and then French fries and everything at lunch. And then at 3 o'clock, you're crashing again
yeah,
because your blood sugar is doing this. It's going
that's
up
right.
and down and up and down. And that's just, now it seems like, oh, I get it. But yet we still talk to you see these conversations on Twitter with these people that are, still pushing the high carb. It's like you're talking a different language. It's like
Yeah,
they don't get it. And it's all, that's how things are supposed to be. And you're gonna run out of energy because you don't have any carbs.
yeah,
And I beg to differ. I do just fine. Today, as a matter of fact, as an example. So I'm having a meeting and it's went like 12:30, 12:45. I'm not even thinking about it, right? And all of a sudden one of the guys pops up and says, hey, can we take a break? I'm starving. I'm like, oh, sorry, dude. I forget.
yeah,
You normal humans got to eat once in a while.
yeah, yeah. I have the same experience to share. Yeah, same kind of things. Yeah,
Yeah, it's just because if you're not a sugar burner, you aren't thinking about food every 2 hours.
yeah,
You don't have
that's
to
right.
eat 15 seconds after you get out of bed.
No,
It's
it's the
just
opposite actually. The food becomes the last thing that you're thinking about because you get so razor focused on the task that you've put yourself to, which is another amazing benefit of eating this way. Your mental focus is just light years ahead of what it used to be. And
right.
anyway, that's another
Yeah.
amazing side effect of also eliminating your obesity and reversing your type 2 diabetes. Oh, by the way, you also have like superpowers mentally. Like it's insane.
It's absolutely true. I can benefit from that. I know that my work ethic, not ethic, but my efficiency has gone skyrocketed
Yeah,
doing this. I never really needed a lot of sleep anyway. Well, I think I should have been getting a lot more sleep. I probably would have been a lot healthier. But now it's like I can sleep 6 hours and be fully rested instead of
cool.
waking up all night, like I
Hmm.
did before, and then being exhausted in the morning and then getting narcolepsy while I'm driving and these types of things.
Mm,
Extremely dangerous, right? I mean, just from the inflammation, you can't sleep. So you get more and more tired, and then you can't sleep even more. So getting beyond that, I mean, how dangerous was that as a society for us anyway?
yeah,
Um, it's striking how the change is. And one of the things too, you talk about in the past, your parents going to the doctor, listen to their doctor. My brother, in his case, he did low carb. He did Atkins
oh, cool. Yeah.
probably 10 years ago and was doing fine. He lost like 100 pounds,
Wow.
was doing great. And then he went to his doctor, and his doctor said, well, that's going to kill you. And so he stopped and
No.
gained the weight back again. Right. And so now he's,
Yeah, thanks, Doc.
yeah, really. And so now he's doing keto with us, and he's
Good.
doing fine. But it's just one of those things. Is like, which is going to kill you? Is it the being obese, having high blood pressure, having high blood sugar, uh,
Yeah,
having super high cholesterol? I mean, which is neither here nor there. But I mean, all these indicators are terrible. But you're going to tell somebody that, well, what you're doing is going to kill you, even though all your numbers are great. It just
yeah.
doesn't make sense.
I won't get into it too much
Mhm.
because it's like everyone has the same kind of story. But yeah, I had the same kind of run around with my GP.
Mhm.
All my blood markers were beautiful, beautiful blood markers, but my cholesterol, right? So you mentioned cholesterol, right? So she
Mhm.
sends me off, right? And I go to an endocrinologist, and he won't really listen to my question. Well, why is my LDL by itself, in absence of inflammation markers and my HbA1c, why is that a problem? And he couldn't really answer. So he sends me
Mhm.
to a lipidologist. I asked the same question, couldn't really answer. And I said, you know what, forget it. Just forget
Well,
it.
we do want to sell you some statins.
Yeah, sure. Oh, patient decline statins. That's all they need to write. So, okay,
Right.
fine. Right. I'm
Right.
fine with that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, that's absolutely true. And I've been reading and watching a lot of videos on that lately. Um, talking about, well, for one thing, there's just a bunch of risk factors, right? And
Hmm.
so if you look at what your waist circumference versus your height,
Yeah.
LDL is not one of them. It's HDL, triglycerides, blood pressure, blood glucose, right?
Hmm.
If the other four are or five are
Yeah.
great, that
Yep.
one indicator is just that. The way I kind of like to put it is like if you smoke, smoking is a real problem for lung cancer, right?
Hmm.
Another side effect of smoking is that you get yellow teeth, right? So the way the doctors are treating the LDL is like they're giving you tooth whitener and saying, "Yep, see, you've got your teeth aren't as yellow, so you're safer now." Really, it's just kind of it's a marker that doesn't really matter, right?
That's right. That's right. They're improving it on paper. But yeah, I've seen more than 50% of people admitted to hospital with heart attacks have the correct level of low LDL. So really, people who have this proper level of LDL are actually going to the hospital for heart attacks way more often than those with high LDL. But anyway, let's not go too much into cholesterol, right? Like that's not really my realm of
It's
expertise.
not
A
our
lot of
thing,
people,
but it
that's
is
not my thing.
interesting.
No, it is, yeah.
Well, I mean, it is
Um,
our thing in the fact that we run into it all the time, right?
yeah,
We
it's a common
constantly
concern. It's like
see
the
the.
last thing that prevents people from making that leap. It's like, oh, but what about the cholesterol? It's like, well, what about everything else that improves?
Mhm.
Like, where are you gonna plant your flag, right? I had my flag planted on the other side of that fence, hedging my bets,
Right.
being low fat, and there was really no evidence that I was doing it that way, right? Like, not there's no evidence really either way. So why was I staying on that side? Now I've brought my flag to the other side. And now all
Mhm.
of a sudden I need to provide all this evidence, all this proof. Well, just I'm gonna experiment on myself at this point. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna listen to these, you know, studies that can be twisted in any which way. It's like, no, this is working for me. And
Mhm.
if I'm crazy, I'm crazy. But you know what? Seems to be millions of other people doing the exact same thing and seeing better results. So
Right.
I'm gonna take that leap of faith instead of taking the leap on the other side where I was becoming obese and feeling like crap. So, one way or the other, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. We're all gonna go anyway one day.
Yeah.
Might as well, eat steak and feel great in the meantime. Who knows what's gonna
Quality of
happen.
life is what's important here, right? I mean,
That's right.
we've got all have some sort of we only have so many heartbeats,
That's
but you might
right.
as well make them happy heartbeats instead of miserable heartbeats.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's true. I'm fortunate in the fact that our my primary doctor is also my rheumatologist, who initially was talking about not a keto diet but a low inflammation diet,
Okay.
which has a lot of parallels to keto, right? But she still was still classically trained, right? She still
Yeah.
was concerned about well, too much fat, too much salt, those type of things. But so she saw the transformation that my wife and I went through. So we went first to her, I think, in September after we'd started in August. Told her what we were doing. She's like,
Yeah.
well, okay. I mean, I think that sounds all right because you're doing low inflammation. We'll just keep an eye on your markers and your numbers. And so we went back in January and she saw that I had lost, I think at that point it was 68 pounds. And she was like, okay, I'm a believer because, for one thing, I'm sure that she talks to her patients all the time and recommends a low inflammation diet and they nod their head and don't do it. right? But we actually took it seriously, and not just her version of it, but a even more strict version of it, which would be the ketogenic
Sure. Yeah.
way, and proved it out. And so I gave her our food list. Then I said, okay, well, here's the
Nice.
protocol we're using. And she goes, can I make copies of this? I want to
Yeah,
give
it's
this to every one
beautiful.
of our patients. And
Nice
so I'm like,
job.
yep, yep, please do it. And we did see a spike in our autoimmune group after that, because we are starting to see local Tampa people getting involved in that as well. So
That's
uh,
great. Yeah, that's how it's going to work. It's going to be
mm,
these small grassroots groups
mm,
in communities that are influenced by watching stuff like this and doing their own research and trying things out for themselves and just spreading it by grassroots because it's
right.
not going to happen. It's not going to change from the government side down. It's not going to change from the food industry side down. I mean, the only way that I see that the food industry is going to help buy into it is when people like you and me are spending money
Mm,
on products that they recognize to be low carb, high fat, and uh, I'm seeing like hard-boiled eggs for the first time prepackaged in our grocery stores. Like
mm,
jerky is being sold right next to the kale chips at Starbucks this morning, right? Not to plug Starbucks, right? But like,
yeah.
just got to say, you're seeing these high protein snacks made available and convenient. That's the way the food industry can help, right? So I'm really hoping, and I think we wanted to maybe touch on, guidelines and that kind of thing for
Yeah.
I've got young kids, a newborn and a 2-year-old basically, and by the time they get into elementary and high school and they're going to be making food choices, I just want low carb to be an accessible option that isn't gonna, be difficult for them to do. Because right now it is a little bit difficult, even though, like you've noticed, you sometimes don't need to eat lunch, but you don't want to have that, right? If your kid's going to school, they're going to eat lunch, make it at least something that they can, that you can be happy that they're eating, that they understand why they're making that choice, right? Like I want that. That's kind of the second goal, other than converting my parents to low carb. The second goal is that by the time my young ones are old enough, uh, that this way of eating is kind of it's a viable choice as opposed to the standard food and the standard guidelines. Because the guidelines, of course, as you know, they're feeding the schools, they're feeding the sick in the hospitals.
Mhm.
I mean, I was like we were just in the hospital, last week. And what they fed my recovering wife was a joke, right? I mean, orange juice, French toast, syrup, margarine, and
Mm.
or like, come on, right? Like, what are you feeding these people in the hospital? And if never mind, you're in the hospital as a young person recovering from, surgery, basically. What about the elderly people that go into the hospital because they fell, right?
Mm.
And now they're just there's no chance for them recovering or getting out of there. Or what if they're in there because of a high blood glucose issue, right? Or they're in there for dialysis. What are you feeding them, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
I hear you. Yeah, I mean, if you think about, even you're talking about your kids' case and school, I think this week, New York City schools
oh
have
my God.
announced that
Yeah.
they're going meatless Mondays, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, they're going, not that I'm opposed to eating plants. I don't have a problem with that,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it shouldn't be your main source of nutrition, right? Because
No.
we're finding out that just vegetables, plants are just not as bioavailable nutrition wise as meat is.
Yeah.
So
And
they're lacking protein. They're not getting the proteins they need. If they're looking for like a tofu type protein,
yeah,
it's just not as readily absorbable, and probably it's probably even GMO on top of it, right? So it's been genetically modified. It's
no, and
it's
that
just not the best choice.
no, and I've seen, all these great charts that come out, 3 ounces of beef give you 25 grams of protein. You need
Mm,
like 6.5 tablespoons of peanut butter. And what does that mean calorically, right? So you're eating all this extra energy to have to get the right amount of protein. Like your body needs this protein, right? And it also drives satiety when you have this protein. So these kids on Mondays, I would love to see what the behavior is like. Maybe they should monitor that on Mondays. How rowdy are the kids after they've had their lunch? Or are they all cranky?
mm.
uh, Compared to a lunch where they're getting at least some protein, right? I don't know. That kind of makes me very upset seeing that, because that just kind of opens the door another crack
Yeah.
to further actions like that, right? That's a precedent, and
Hmm.
I'm a little bit worried about what that could mean. So
Yeah,
anyway,
and if their goal is to make it harder for people to get meat, so basically then only maybe the rich can, because their goal is to tax it, right? Is to put
I've
big
seen that too.
huge
Yeah,
taxes on meat, so only the very wealthy can afford meat. Um, that it's that's a huge nutritional hit on the
yeah,
majority of people that we don't need to be seeing.
yeah. Marie Antoinette goes, "Let them eat cake," right?
Mm,
Now there's not enough meat around, then let them eat cake, and they're gonna suffer, and that's what they're gonna let you do, which is disgusting. So keep spending your money is my point at your local butchers, right? Like
mhm.
go and buy some fresh fish, don't let these guidelines sway you, and just live by example, and load up that grocery cart with nutrient dense foods. That's kind of what I'm trying to do, and just make it a habit. And hopefully industry sees that there's money to be made there, and they lead the charge as opposed to the government, and we can't rely on guidelines being set, because the subsidies that are already in place, they're helping agriculture move that direction and just stay with their monocrops, and not wanting to go the other direction, which is, the cattle farming and the ruminant farming and that kind of thing. But
Well, we did see maybe a week and a half ago now, we saw how Kraft and a bunch of processed food companies took a big hit
yeah,
on Wall Street. And the reasoning was that people are not looking for processed food so much. So we are already starting to see that. And then we saw Weight Watchers take a big hit,
yeah,
and right on top of that, we saw their backlash. Right, keto crotch. Uh, that
I
was
love that.
their reaction. I have no doubt, because the same
Yep.
marketing company that Weight Watchers run uses uh, did that marketing
Yeah.
technique.
Yeah. You
The
must have seen
negative,
that breakdown. I forget the guy's name on Twitter, but he made
yeah.
this crazy breakdown of what happens and
Hmm.
how these ads get placed and how there's no real news anymore. It's all advertising,
Yeah,
making the news.
disguised as news. Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's
Mhm.
it's mind-blowing. It's actually really beautiful when you think of it away from the nutritional aspect, like the way that they can send messages this way and just totally sway the masses.
Mm.
Like everyone believes that. Everyone believes that stuff. And you
Persuasion
know,
bombs. Yeah.
yeah, and you're unable to knock down every single one of these things as they come up. You're unable to, as someone who's a proponent of a low carb lifestyle. You just can't keep up with this stuff. And there's always like, well, what about this? Well, what about this? Oh, you must be wrong because I heard this. Well, okay, fine, but you know what? I'm still down 55 pounds.
Here's
Like
my
let's just
before
leave it at
picture. Here's
that.
my after picture.
It's right,
Yeah.
You can believe what you want to believe, right? So
Mm.
I'm gonna continue this way, and maybe people will see it. That's the only thing that you can hope is it's grassroots, because the media and government, it sounds like a conspiracy theorist, man. I never thought I would talk this way. Never thought I would talk this way. But you know what? When it comes to nutrition, there seems to be no way out. There seems to be no way out other than to just influence who you can, and maybe you influence two people and they influence two people, and you just let it explode that way.
Right.
So,
And
I'm really glad that you asked me to do this talk, and I watched some of your previous talks, and they're really inspiring. So I hope that this helps. I hope it at least gets one or two people to try it. That's all I really care,
yeah, I
and just
think it'll
keep
happen.
going.
It's going to happen. I mean, I've been so busy lately. I haven't been able to put as much time into it as I like. But the work that we are already doing, the groundwork we're doing, is still getting noticed by people, and so it works. I mean, people are catching on. They're seeing you. They're seeing me. They're seeing other people around them, and they're connecting the dots.
Yeah,
So it's working. Um, so there's always going to be haters, but the haters will be fat.
yeah. Or there'll be paid haters, which are
Haters.
hard to distinguish, right? But they're probably paid to be hating. So as long as we're not paid to be honest, I think that we're okay, right? So
Yeah, there's no doubt. So have you got any anything on in the works, like cookbooks or anything like that you're working on?
Uh,
Or
nothing like that. I'm more of like blogging about the lifestyle.
Mhm.
I probably am gonna wrap up my blog posts into a quick, easy to read ebook at some point. But right
Right.
now, if you guys can check out ItalianGoesKeto.com, if you don't mind me, plugging
No,
the site.
please, please. We definitely. That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
How can people find out about you? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically it. ItalianGoesKeto.com for my blog, or follow me at toprate222. That's TOPRATE 222.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's my handle, Italian Goes Keto.
On Twitter. Hmm.
On Twitter, yeah, keep
Yeah.
spreading the good word.
Do you have a Facebook also, or?
Yep, yep. You can search Italian Goes Keto. I have a Facebook page there
Okay.
that'll automatically post whenever I add a blog post.
Cool. Well, we have got our Keto Mojo Go site. Feel free to post over there anytime you want to as well.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I mean, Greek Ghost. You'll see them. Greek Ghost Keto is on there all the time, posting their
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay, cool. Great.
They're great. They're big time foodies.
Yeah, I know. I can't keep up. I can't do those. Those recipes are awesome, and I
They
can't. I
are. They're
don't know how to
beautiful.
build it.
And we talk
Yeah.
to them all the time, and we're like, "Man, your food to us is food porn. We love it, but we just can't. We can't keep up with you guys. You guys make beautiful stuff. So
Yeah, yeah.
great. Well, Anthony, hey, I really appreciate your time, bud, and I'm sure
No
we'll do
problem.
this again sometime. Maybe we can come up with another topic that really hits home with you that we can really dig into. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this was fun.
It was. All right, man. Well, you have a good evening, and I know we both got to work in the morning, so we'll talk to you later.
All right. Good night.
All right. Good night.